Well, Pope Leo XIV has formally taken up his role as leader of the Catholic Church with an inaugural Mass in St. Peter's Square.
Welcome, curious listeners. Today we're diving into a topic that has captivated the imagination of millions around the world, the mysterious world of the Vatican and its newest leader. The papacy has always been surrounded by intrigue, tradition, and occasionally controversy. So let's explore some of the most fascinating aspects of the papal office that rarely make headlines. 1. The midnight rituals that defy explanation. Long after the tourists have left St. Peter's Square and the Vatican museums have closed their doors, a different kind of activity begins within the sacred walls. The new pope, like his predecessors, participates in ancient traditions that few outsiders have witnessed. Each night at precisely midnight, it's said that the Pope descends into the Vatican grottos, those labyrinthine passages beneath St. Peter's Basilica where previous pontiffs are entombed. There, by the light of specially blessed candles, he engages in a ritual of reflection and prayer that dates back centuries. The midnight ritual is actually a profound spiritual practice, explains Vatican historian Dr. Isabella Conti. It's a moment when the Pope confronts the weight of his office by communing with those who carried the burden before him. It's not disturbing in a sinister sense, but it's certainly sobering to imagine anyone regularly spending time alone among the tombs of their predecessors. What makes this practice particularly intriguing is that each pope adds his own elements to the ritual. Some bring specific prayers, others particular objects of significance. The current pope reportedly brings a small notebook in which he writes questions for his predecessors, leaving the pages open as if awaiting answers that might come through contemplation. 2. The secret archives that remain sealed. Deep within the Vatican lies one of the world's most exclusive libraries, the Vatican's Secret Archives, recently renamed the Vatican Apostolic Archives. Despite the name change, much of its contents remain inaccessible to the public and even to most scholars. While portions of the archives have been opened to qualified researchers, specific collections remain sealed by papal decree. These include documents related to modern papal conclaves, certain diplomatic correspondences, and files that allegedly contain information deemed too sensitive for public knowledge. Every new pope is given a special tour of the restricted sections, says former Vatican archivist Father Marco Bonelli. It's a tradition that serves as both an initiation and a burden, showing the new pontiff information that he must now help protect. What's particularly interesting about the current pope is his background in historical studies. Sources close to the Vatican suggest he spent an unusual amount of time in the archives during his first weeks in office, emerging from these visits looking, as one staff member described, deeply troubled by something he had read. Number 3. The linguistic requirements few know about. While it's commonly known that the Pope must be versed in multiple languages to lead a global church, what's less understood is the specific linguistic training each new pontiff undergoes after election. Beyond the expected languages like Latin, Italian, and Spanish, each pope must become proficient in a form of encrypted communication used only within the highest echelons of Vatican leadership. This isn't merely a code or cipher, but involves specific phraseology and references that allow papal communications to contain layers of meaning. It's not unlike how diplomats speak in carefully constructed statements, where every word carries precise weight, explains Dr. Sophia Rossi, a specialist in ecclesiastical communications. The difference is that papal language contains theological dimensions that can completely transform the meaning of seemingly straightforward statements. The current pope reportedly struggled with this aspect of his training, preferring more direct communication. This tension between tradition and his personal style has created interesting dynamics in how official Vatican statements are crafted and delivered. Before, the medical monitoring that never stops. From the moment a new pope is elected, his health becomes a matter of intense institutional interest. What few outside the Vatican realize is the extent of medical surveillance the pontiff experiences. Sensors in the papal apartments monitor everything from air quality to the pope's sleep patterns. Blood tests are conducted weekly, with results reviewed by a committee of physicians sworn to secrecy. Even the Pope's waste is regularly analyzed for signs of health issues that he might not report himself. It sounds invasive, and in many ways it is, admits a former Vatican physician who requested anonymity. But the health of the Pope is considered too important to rely solely on his own reporting of symptoms. The Church has learned from history that pontiffs often downplay health concerns. The current Pope has reportedly pushed back against some of these measures. orders, particularly the constant monitoring of his vital signs. This resistance has created tension with the Vatican medical staff, who view their role as protecting not just a man, but an institution. Letter 5. The dietary restrictions that border on superstition. The papal diet is subject to security measures that go far beyond protecting against conventional threats, like poisoning. A set of dietary traditions, some dating back centuries, dictate what the Pope can consume on particular days and under specific circumstances. Certain foods are forbidden before major addresses or significant meetings. Others are required on the anniversaries of historic papal decisions or before visiting particular countries. These aren't merely health considerations, but are tied to symbolic and sometimes superstitious beliefs about how diet affects spiritual clarity and decision-making. Monday meals must always include bitter herbs, reveals a former Vatican chef. Wednesday dinners must be simple and never include red meat, and there's a specific bread recipe that must be consumed before any major doctrinal announcement. The current Pope has maintained most of these traditions while quietly abandoning others, particularly those he views as superstitious rather than symbolic. This selective approach has raised eyebrows among Vatican traditionalists, who see the dietary practices as an unbroken chain linking each pontiff to his predecessors. 6. The nightmares that come with the office. Perhaps one of the most human aspects of the papacy is also one of its most closely guarded secrets: the psychological toll the office takes on the man who holds it. Vatican insiders report that every modern pope has experienced a similar pattern of dreams and nightmares, particularly in their first year. These often involve being judged by previous pontiffs or being unable to speak when trying to address the faithful. Some report dreams of being lost in the Vatican's endless corridors, or of St. Peter's Basilica crumbling around them. These dreams aren't supernatural, explains Dr. Gabriel Moretti, a psychologist who has consulted with the Vatican. They're the subconscious processing, the enormous pressure of the office. What's remarkable is how consistent the pattern is from one pope to the next, regardless of their background or personality. The current pope reportedly experienced these dreams with unusual intensity, leading to the installation of a special prayer space in his private quarters where he can meditate when sleep becomes difficult. This space, unlike the formal papal chapel, is arranged in the style of his homeland, creating a spiritual refuge within the otherwise Italian surroundings. Number 7. The isolation that grows with each year. While the Pope appears constantly surrounded by people, from cardinals and bishops to Swiss guards and staff, the reality of papal life is one of increasing isolation. As years pass, the circle of people who speak candidly to the pontiff grows smaller, creating what insiders call the bubble of infallibility. It begins subtly, explains a retired Vatican secretary. People stop contradicting you. They phrase concerns as questions rather than statements. Eventually, they stop raising concerns altogether. Every pope recognizes it happening, but seems powerless to prevent it. This isolation is particularly challenging for the current pope, who was known before his election for valuing frank discussion and diverse viewpoints. Sources close to him suggest he has developed unconventional methods to combat this isolation, including anonymous written feedback systems and occasional meetings with ordinary Catholics who don't know they'll be speaking with the pontiff until they arrive. 8. The prophecies they must memorize. Among the less discussed responsibilities of any new pope is the requirement to memorize the various prophecies associated with the papacy, particularly the so-called prophecy of the popes attributed to Saint Malachi. While the Vatican publicly downplays these prophecies, they remain part of the papal education. It's not that the Church necessarily believes these prophecies are divine, clarifies Father Domenico Bartoli, a professor of church history. Rather, it's important for each pope to understand how his pontificate might be interpreted through these lenses by others, both within and outside the Church. What makes this particularly relevant for the current pope is his position in the sequence of pontiffs described in these prophecies. Depending on how one interprets the list, he occupies either a significant position or a relatively unremarkable one. An ambiguity that has reportedly both troubled and relieved him at different moments. Number 9. The personal sacrifice. Few consider when a cardinal becomes pope, he doesn't just accept a new role. He surrenders his former identity in ways few outsiders fully appreciate. His personal preferences in everything from food to music become subordinated to the expectations of the office. Even his sleep schedule is dictated by centuries of tradition. The Pope doesn't choose when to wake or sleep, what to eat, or even what to wear, explains a longtime Vatican staff member. Every aspect of daily life follows patterns established long before the current pontiff was born. It's a complete surrender of personal autonomy. What makes this particularly poignant for the current pope is his previously well-documented love of spontaneity and simple pleasures. Sources close to him reveal that he keeps a small collection of personal items from his pre-papal life, including a worn novel, a favorite coffee cup, and a pair of ordinary shoes, as reminders of the person he once was. 10. The constant awareness of history's judgment. Perhaps the most profound burden of the papacy is the acute awareness each pope develops of how history will judge their decisions. Every document signed, every statement made, every policy implemented carries the weight of knowing it will be scrutinized by generations to come. It's not just about contemporary approval, says Cardinal Giovanni Rossi, a close advisor to several pontiffs. It's about how these decisions will be viewed in 50 years, in 100 years, in 500 years. Few other roles carry that level of historical scrutiny. For the current pope, this awareness has reportedly led to a practice of keeping two journals, an official one that will eventually enter the Vatican archives, and a private one that contains his unfiltered thoughts and doubts. This second journal, according to Vatican tradition, will be destroyed upon his death, making it perhaps the only truly personal expression of his papacy that will never face the judgment of history. Conclusion: the human behind the title. What these secrets ultimately reveal isn't scandal or conspiracy, but something perhaps more compelling: the profound humanity of the person who holds one of the world's most unique offices. Behind the traditions, rituals, and protocols is a human being navigating a role that few can truly understand. The current pope, like all before him, brings his own personality, strengths, and weaknesses to an office designed to transform the individual into a symbol. The tension between the person and the position creates the fascinating dynamics that continue to captivate our imagination. As one Vatican insider put it, the greatest secret about any pope isn't what he does, but who he remains beneath the white cassock and the weight of 2,000 years of history. That's the story that's never fully told. Whether viewed through the lens of faith, history, or simple human interest, the papacy remains one of the world's most fascinating institutions. Not because of dark secrets or conspiracies, but because it represents the enduring mystery of how ordinary men navigate an extraordinary calling.